Welcome to the Recovery Soul podcast. I'm Rev Rachel, and I am really excited to have an amazing guest with us today, Audrey Hope, who is here to help us talk about soul records, your soul journey, your soul story, and another wonderful practitioner of spirituality and really helping people find themselves. So, welcome to Recover Your Soul.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm really honored to have you here. We were just talking about how you've been in this field doing this a long time, which doesn't seem nearly possible because you're gorgeous and young and beautiful, which is that concept of how much we are shifting and changing in such a small period of time. And you do a lot of work in recovery as well, which is why you're great for this particular audience.
Yes, I'm really happy to be here because I think of it as new technology. Like we have the iPhone, we have now AI, but healing needs that new technology too. So when I started, I was very alone in this, bringing a soul perspective to addiction and trauma. And to see how now it's moving in that direction is really quite positive. And the world needs more positive energy, especially now.
Did you come at it from your own recovery, or how did you get into this space of using spirituality for recovery?
Something interesting, I never had addiction in my family. I'm
Mm.
Jewish. I'm from Brooklyn and Queens. I can't think of a relative that was an alcoholic or any of that. I think it had to do more with my mission and my life purpose. I just really knew from an early age that I was on to something. My name is Hope, Audrey Hope. I've always been a knowing that wanted to help the world. And so it comes more from that. And then I was thrown into rehabs and people with trauma. And I'm like, there's a doorway in
Mm-hmm.
addiction. It is like you're on your knees, you're at the worst part, you've lost maybe everything. Guess what? That is one step away from enlightenment. And I learned that. And so addiction was a way into enlightenment. Go figure.
Interesting. As an addict, I totally think that. And I feel like my own addiction was twofold. One is I believe that my soul needed to have this experience so that I could better understand the people that I'm helping. So I think that's a big piece of it. And I also think that it was how I just dealt with the uncomfortableness I had in the world. And I am a grateful alcoholic, right? How people say they're grateful
Good.
addict or a grateful alcoholic, because it was what opened up the door inevitably and in the end through walking in the rooms of AA that made it so that I could actually hear everything that I'd been listening to as being raised Buddhist, going to Unity Church for 20 years.
Yes.
Somehow it hadn't gone into my heart. And it was through the being on your knees and just saying, I got to figure out a way how to save myself that brought me closer to God.
Yeah, it's a new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Change your perspective, change your life. And I'll sometimes say to my clients that, do you realize that alcohol saved your life? You have trauma. What would you have done? Put a bullet to your head? And I'll say things that is very like shocking, but it's really true. So there's so much shame and guilt. That's a big reason why people use. So clearing that and giving people with addiction dignity is so powerful.
Absolutely. I love something that you just said because it's actually something that I believe as well, which is we look really negatively on alcohol or addiction as some sort of moral loss, something that we're
Yeah.
doing wrong. But this there is this moment where you recognize that sometimes drugs and alcohol are the only solution to be able to handle what you're feeling or dealing with in your life or the trauma that you experienced because it's too heavy.
Exactly. You take an aspirin if you have a headache and you're trying to get into the nervous system. I always say we need a vacuum and we could try to find a way to vacuum out the pain. But what alcohol and drugs do is it gets to the nervous system and calms the nervous system and it stops the thoughts, which is what spirituality is meant to do, stop the thinking. So why is there shame in needing something to calm the nervous system when you've maybe been sexually abused, you've had parents that have been violent, and you need addicts and anyone actually trying to solve problems. They need to stop the abandonment of the self, and they need to come to the healing process with more self-love and more compassion. And that is a really big deal that gets people to heal very quickly.
So if you love somebody who is an addict and you're
Mm.
thinking of this concept, this new maybe way of looking at it, that instead of seeing it as something horrible or awful, but recognizing it was the only solution at the time, and maybe it's a solution they're having a hard time giving up, what do you have to offer to help them be able to see it from that angle in a new way? I often say on a regular basis with people,
Yeah.
it's quit counting the drinks because that's not actually what's going on. There's so much more going on underneath.
Yes,
But we get,
it's never about the
it's
addiction.
never about the addiction, right?
Exactly. My question is to the person, are you willing to do everything it takes to heal? Are you willing to commit? Because if you're with someone who doesn't want to do the work, there you can't be with them. It's just impossible. It's like hitting yourself against a wall. So, there needs to be a process that needs to happen. Are they willing to go on that journey? Are they willing to do what it takes? Are they willing to face themselves through the darkness? And if your partner isn't, that's the problem.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
huge. I say the same thing too. And part of what we work on here is letting go of control and being willing to see it as it is, because there is a big difference between somebody who's working it and somebody who isn't.
Yes.
And the people who are working it then are working it in their own way. And
Mhm.
then we have to do our work. Is it enough? Is it not putting it on them, but putting it on us? Can I do my work and let them do their work? What would you say on the soul level,
Great
since
question.
we can talk about karma and contracts and whatever is out there in the super woo?
Yeah. The soul it has laws, okay? And I like really been working on the manual because I feel if we had the rules and the games of life, we would understand it so much better, but we don't. Here's the thing. We are not supposed to save anyone, and we are not here to do that. Everyone is in their own classroom, and we have to let people wouldn't go to school for our own children. We can't do the work for anyone else. So we can't take on the karmic baggage of someone else. That's a very important soul law, is to heal the self and invite people to do it too. But to stop leaking and taking on people's energy is a very big soul law. So when you understand life from the manual of the soul, things get really easy fast. We are a lot of times in our relationships, we are taking on the baggage of our partner. We got to know what's my baggage and what's theirs. And we have to stop doing that. And as women, we do that a lot. We just are natural. Come on, give it to me. I'll take it all. So, one of the things in soul healing is to energetically cut the cords, the hooks, and the chains of what we're carrying. It's so powerful. People heal so quickly with that because we don't realize that we are still corded to someone even though they die, even though we're divorced. So in the soul thing, another thing is the energy piece.
Yes, I love all of that. It's exactly what I teach in soul recovery as well. And this concept of getting out of somebody else's classroom, getting out of their curriculum. It made me really actually think about, like, in a classroom, if you do the work for somebody else, they may pass the class, but they don't actually learn the information. So what benefit are you giving them to help them cheat or to move forward to the next place when they didn't get the information? Then they're just that much further behind
Exactly.
in.
And how do you really heal someone? You can tell them, but they don't listen. Again, it's like talking to a wall. But if you change and you be the change you long to see, the person is invited and they'll realize if I don't shape up, this person's going to leave me. So the energy has to be into the self, the sovereignty of the self, putting the attention and focus on the self. It's not selfish. People always ask me, that's selfish. That's how we've been programmed in religion, which is another big piece in addiction. The religion, the sin, the guilt, the punishment, it's a big thing. Even though people say they're not in a church or a temple anymore, whatever, they've been programmed with a loss of self, give your power over to authority, and to believe that sin and punishment is really one of the top three reasons people use.
Yeah, that's amazing to really think about that.
Yes.
If you have those kinds of traumas, what are some of the techniques that you use to help people move out of the religious trauma and into a spiritual world? Because I think that this is what we're being called to, is to leave a
Yes.
lot of those religious dogmas behind to actually step into this new space.
Yes. You got to track it.
Hmm.
You got to go back and track it in a timeline. I have a client, she says she doesn't like the Jesus stuff, and yet she's always saying guilt, I'm guilty. I'm like, where'd you get it? I said, stop, let's find out. I found out she was in a church as a child all the way up to like age 10. Duh, kidding? That's where you got it. And then she was horrified by some of the images. And that's where it was, but she didn't put the pieces together. And with soul work, you got to track things. You got to see where you got it.
Yeah,
Where did you get that idea? It came from somewhere. So I have this fast way of closing eyes and going back to track it. And then also, sometimes it could be past lives. Sometimes nothing makes sense. Absolutely nothing makes sense. You explored it from everything. Sometimes you got to bring in, maybe you're bringing in something from another time and space. So it becomes, what are your belief systems? Do you believe that this is all there is? Or are we souls in continuous life? And so sometimes it's very important to tell someone what they're bringing in. And if they go back to birth and they really feel that they always had it, that's past lives.
I think that it's so fabulous that we can talk so openly about these concepts now without it being the kooky people on the side having these weird conversations, because it is so much more mainstream to really talk about these concepts that our souls
Yes.
are eternal,
Yes.
and here we are having these different experiences.
Yes, that thing you're talking about is like that airy fairy. I was put into that challenge from early on. And the reason why I could give evidence that this is real, not only because I'm a New Yorker and I got that thing, I'm not that way, but it's also because when you're suffering and you tried everything and people really want to heal, they're open to it. And then when they see that they really did change from something that was in the soul, they're like, wow, you know what I mean? So the evidence is in the suffering and then the non-suffering.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. One of the things that I haven't talked a lot about in the podcast, but I have gotten a lot of clarity in my own life, is soul contracts. Can you explain what a soul contract is and maybe how
Yes.
that plays out in this?
God, I have so many instances of cases. I'm thinking of this client that I have who is Catholic. She fell madly in love with a very Hasidic Jewish person. Okay, now that, how do you square that? It doesn't make sense. They're so opposite in their thinking, but they they came together and there was like a firework. Sometimes you get a hit. You meet someone, you go, oh my God, you actually could feel it. I've known this person before, or you have some kind of reaction. That's like a soul contract. That's something that comes from another time. And they really came here to meet again. They actually went to Israel together and did a trip to Israel, which is wild because that's where I felt that they both were, where this happened. And they actually healed it while they were in Israel. They're not together now, but they had to come together and finish something.
Mm.
So a soul contract is something deep that you'll feel on a level in your heart and you'll say, this is weird. This doesn't make sense. But you're brought together to finish something because it's a really deep issue. There are themes in our life. And if you really want to mark what happens with people, they just repeat the same things over and over again. And it's the same thing times 10, right? So that's like a contract, something you Like when you go to school and you make your classes, we make these classes. I want to do this when I get to Earth. I want to do that. And there's proof also in the tracking of the familiarity of the pattern. So that's a soul contract. It's a deeper thing you've come here to heal.
So, what I love is you actually shared that it could mean that there needs to be some sort of completion. Because I
Yes.
think sometimes people get caught up in the soul mate or a soul contract, and referencing earlier, where you're saying if someone's in the throes of addiction and they are not willing to do whatever it takes to get better, they're not willing to step into the awareness that this is part of their awakening, then you need to make the choice for yourself. It isn't selfish to make your own choice. So how can you wrap that in with potentially a soul contract that really is around making that decision and knowing that part of the contract may be that you have to let them have their own hardship or their own experience or not stay together.
Then it becomes a mirror. All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players, right? So the question becomes, why did I meet this person? For me. What am I supposed to heal? So that's what the soul contract is. It's about you, not them.
Right.
All healing is about you, not the other person. Not about even energy work. It's not about the other person. It's about you and what you have come to earth to heal. And then they just play it out for you. And then you start to find the patterns that repeat. Maybe your boss is the same as your husband. You got to track it and you got to go, oh my God, stand in a circle and see the patterns. It's the same thing. And you have to say, what am I here to learn? And that's your soul contract. When it's really familiar, it really feels intense. It really feels Shakespearean. And you know in your soul, I've been here before.
I love that because this is exactly what I teach in soul recovery. It's always turn the attention back to yourself. Be curious about how this is for you. What is this
Yes,
reflecting for you? How do you
yes,
stand back and look at your soul, your experience, what you're learning, how you're growing? And ultimately, it changes our lives and our relationships always in a
yes.
way that is profoundly different.
Yes, because we love to blame everyone, right? We need to blame everyone when we start healing. Bring it on. It's everyone's fault. Bring it on. Mom, dad, everybody. But then there comes a time when we don't want to get what the benefit of the wound is, which is you got to transform the story. You got to burn the story. Who are you without your story? Like enough. Caterpillar to butterfly, alchemy. We're done. Wrap it in a bow. Tell it to people if you want to inspire them, but don't be a prisoner to what happened to you. And
Mhm.
spirituality is fire. We're burning it and we're taking on the new identity.
Absolutely beautiful. So aligned with what I believe and teach and
Yeah.
what has happened in my life. It's really incredible. And we're on this journey, and I think about how today, as we're filming, is Lionsgate, which is really cool, and
Yeah.
movement into energy in our own lives. That's really recognizing the strength and sovereignty that we have in our own lives. What do you see as our collective? What do you see as this really big shift that's happening right now that is, I think, transforming everything? In 10 years, we're going to look back and we're going to be like, oh my God, that was such a huge time.
God, I'm so happy you asked this question. Because this is the problem in the world. We're getting stuck in all the shit. It's really heavy. But you talk about Lionsgate with Age of Aquarius, it's powerful. We've gotten out of Taurus, Pisces, and it's 2,600 years. This is really a time, a very powerful time. And so everything has to break. Everything ugly has to come out into the light. And when you really look at healing, that's what happens
Mm,
too. We dredge it up so we can see it, right? Bring it out, and then we can heal it. And in the world, that is what's happening.
yes.
And it could be, again, change your perspective. Look at what's happening and say, how is this leading us to a better place? Because we're looking at so much greed, so much selfishness, so much ugliness. The world needs healing. There's a mass psychosis. So lift it up and go, okay, where is this going to bring us? We're going to learn, right? Some people might not make it through. They'll just be stuck. Okay. But it's a transformation of the inner being. It's an opportunity if we take it.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you're reflecting what I think as well, which is, yeah, turn on the news and you're just getting sucked back down into this continuous cycle. And I'm always saying, stop watching the news because we get to be sovereign. And the more of us that
Yes.
know that this is a transformation, that speak and act and think of love, and even looking at situations where there's real hardship happening, but not going into fear, I think will counterbalance the fear and move the dial into the timeline, into the transition, into this new age that we will recognize we had some part of.
Yes. But I also find it important to not ignore it and to be real about it. It's ugly.
I
And
agree.
when you can't just say la di da, let me just not look at it, because that's not good either. And we need to do everything that we can to uplift wherever we can and to not take it in our bodies through the fear, because
Mhm.
fear is a weapon, but still to be a soldier and a warrior in it, because that's why we're here too. We're here to fight these battles.
I agree. And I think it's actually a reflection of sometimes spiritual bypass is that you ignore the shadow, right? Oh, there's the shadow. We're going to pretend it doesn't exist, where actually the shadow is often where some of the greatest learning, the greatest movement, the greatest transformation. And so I think similarly, it's not about pretending like none of it's happening, but it's about being present in it with a new perception,
Yes.
like really being present and having a voice that isn't from anger, but that is from empowerment and strength and truth. And those voices that have the consciousness of love behind them are speaking in ways that are changing everything, right? And
Yes.
so it's never about being quiet. I say the same thing in recovery. If you're in a family or in a situation, it's not about being so accepting that you let people walk all over you or you don't have boundaries. It's around having clarity of the power of your voice from this new, really beautiful, authentic place.
Yes, and being in reality. Reality is tough, and it really is. And this journey is really tough. And people think you'll go on this soul journey and it'll be great. No, no. That would be in the manual too. It's a hard journey. And as you rise in light, the opposite also rises. So you will constantly be challenged. I always tell my clients when they leave rehab, you might want to drink in 5 minutes. You might go outside the door and feel like you're having a drink. That doesn't mean you didn't do the work, but there is the chemical piece. You're going to want to drink. It's okay. Embrace the reality of it and go, hello, I see you. But don't put yourself down because you feel like you want to have a drink. Stop that and really accept the reality of it. You'll go to the airport and you'll want to drink. Okay, that's how you meet a demon. You meet them straight on. You
Mhm.
meet the bully straight on. And you don't live in airy fairyland with it. It's going to be there and it's going to be tough.
I think that's so important because I think there's so often people say, if I do everything right and I hit this destination, then everything's going to be perfect and it won't be hard. And I don't think that's what it is. I think it's that you have better tools, you have better resources, you have more opportunity to learn and to grow and to maybe make a different choice, even if that choice isn't like at the level in which you were hoping you would get to. At least it's a better choice than what it was before.
Exactly. And it's education. When you're on a soul journey, you're going to meet everything that
Mm.
is going to inspire you. And it's not going to get easier, except you're going to know the path. It's okay, I'm doing this, I'm constantly challenged. And I go, okay, wow, you snuck in. I always say, we know it's not going to come through the front door because we're very keen on that. Then it'll come through the back door and you'll be, okay, you tried. And then it'll come in through relationships and then it'll come in through life. It's always trying to find its portal in. And so when I teach energy, I teach people to seal the portals so that it doesn't get in and get you. So it's about being in alignment no matter what.
I love that. I just had the question about since you work directly in rehabs and there's been so much change and opening to a different level of spirituality. It is a spiritual program, right? But people
Right.
got overwhelmed with the word God and felt like it was religion, even though it wasn't, but some people treated it that way. What's happening in the rehabilitation space that's moving into this more metaphysical space? Are you seeing it move into metaphysics?
I when I started, I was really alone. Like, okay, something's missing here. I'd sit with the
Mhm.
doctors, the psychologist. I don't know. It just something's missing. So it's that higher level, right? Down and going, why is this happening? What's your life thing? What's going on? Okay. I started to have a lot of success with it, but I was alone. So it was definitely a challenge. But then through the years, I see now that they want to hire more people with that. And so they look for it. So if anyone really wants a career, it's a great, they need people that have a soul perspective in addiction. And of course, I'm going to write a book because I've come up with really like fast ways to do it. Sometimes I'll use cartoons, I'll use different images, and it's really like a whole soul thing that is beyond just saying, just take a higher power. I never use that. I leave that for AA. I use the higher concepts of like looking in your body and finding the energy and what is, put the flashlight there, where is the pain, looking at it, what do we need to do with it? What color does your body need? What is your intuition saying to you? Opening up all that third eye stuff and moving it so you could become your own healer. So it's all these new techniques around it that I don't know if they've been, people say they do yoga, they do Reiki. That's not what I do. It's like taking these light ideas and using it in a new system of healing. So, in answer to your question, it's needed. They're asking for it. We found someone else who does soul healing like me, and it took a long time to find. She's amazing. She works at Seasons with me, but people really are looking for that now. So that's the answer to your
I love
question. It's
that.
a long answer. Sorry.
I love that it's moving into that direction
Yeah.
because I think that not only in addiction but in the world, right? So
Mhm.
that's this whole conversation is around people who might be struggling in that place of how they are choosing to deal with their woundedness, and other people
Yes.
are choosing to deal with their woundedness in other ways, and some of that choosing of how to deal with your woundedness is through codependence or over functioning or being a people pleaser. So we're all looking at like, how do we stand in our wholeness?
Yeah.
How do we awaken? And the answer to me in all of it is stepping into our spiritual wholeness and recognizing our
Yes,
soul's
and
journey.
going beyond the diagnoses of
Yes.
psychology. Oh, wow, that's a whole thing. I get it. You've been labeled. Okay, but you're not crazy.
And
Not crazy. What happened was that you got activated by your trauma and you
mhm,
remembered it. So, of course, you wanted to kill yourself because you didn't realize that there was a sense memory when your husband looked like your father in that moment. So, people think it's crazy, but really what happens is you got activated. So, it's
mhm,
changing the dynamic of the diagnoses
mhm.
and opening up to, again, what is your soul here to heal beyond psychology?
Yeah, and labeling yourself. I was talking to
Yes.
somebody recently who was at one of my workshops, and she was saying, I have autoimmune disease. I have. And I said, oh, interesting. Ultimately, the more you claim, I am, you are choosing what that is. And she said, wow, I never really thought of it like that. And so the
Yeah.
diagnoses, I think, has been a crutch and a pigeonholing in people for such a long time. But I think we're all breaking out of it.
And this, the diagnosis sometimes matches the wound of the
Mhm.
soul. So the disease or something matches what you're real. It's really crazy. I'll sometimes say, okay, tell me how you feel, and then tell me about your illness, and it's the same. It's like it
Mm,
matches.
yeah, unbelievable. We could probably speak forever because we have so many things in alignment. And I
Yes.
think that it's always so beautiful for me to meet people that it's just the connection and truth is truth, right? And this idea that we all are getting information and downloads and sharing, and it's getting more and more obvious that it's holding a space altogether and energy altogether, I think is just amazing.
Yes, I'm very happy that you're doing your podcast. It's very much needed.
Thank you. So tell us how you find Audrey Hope and how people can get involved. I know you've got a really wonderful Instagram and you have a great YouTube channel as well.
Yes, I say I'm one of the original YouTubers, and I've done a show called Hope for Relationships. I wanted to put the nuggets, the pieces, as quickly as possible. It went from 30 minutes to 2 minutes years ago because I realized the attention span. I did Real Women, positive role models for women. That was my love of my life, to really try and help women get out of that low self-esteem. That was one of my first passions. But yes, YouTube, Audrey Hope Now on YouTube, but on my Instagram at the Audrey Hope, and then my website, audreyhope.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your enlight and your wisdom. And I love that you're out there doing this work and changing lives and being such an inspiration to so many.
Thank you so much.
Until next time, namaste.
Namaste.